What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Heel Deal podcast with your hosts Ben and Zach, and it's looking good for the Tar Heel football team. We're 2-0, Zach. How are you feeling about this weekend?
Feeling great, man. This is awesome. I'm glad to be wrong once again about my prediction. Really fun time to be a Tar Heel fan right now.
Yeah, I mean, I feel exactly the same way. So, for this episode, we're going to go through the rundown as always, go straight into the recap of that Miami game, and then into a preview for the Wake Forest game this coming Friday. So let's get straight into it. With women's field hockey, since our last episode, they've won 2 games. They beat Princeton 4-3, and they beat Penn 6-0. They're sitting at 4-0 on the season, so they're doing fantastic. Women's soccer, since we last spoke, they beat LSU 1-0 and then smacked UNLV 8-0. So women's soccer is 6-0. Looks like they are fast tracking it back to the NCAA championship again. So it's good to see. Men's soccer is off to a less than stellar start. So in the past week, they've just had one win against Harvard, 6-0. So that brings them to 1-1, so 1 win, 1 loss, 1 tie. And that's about it for the spring sports going on right now. Of course, you guys know about the big win this weekend. North Carolina beat Miami. We upset Miami at home 28-25. What an electric atmosphere, right, Zach?
Yeah, and Max said after the game, Ben, that it was the most electric he's ever seen it. Mm-hmm. And that's saying a lot, given the fact that when he was here the first time, we had teams that were ranked in the top 10 that won 10 and 11 games. So, yeah, I mean, it was the loudest I've ever seen the place. It was the most full I've ever seen the place. Even the top corners were full, and that's really when you can tell that the whole stadium is really sold out. So it was unbelievable just to see it like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I saw a video of that, go-ahead touchdown when Sam Howell threw it into the back right corner, and as soon as that happened, the student section erupted, and it hurt my ears through the video. I was not expecting how loud it was, and the student section was, I don't think there was a single empty spot on the bleacher. It was such a fun game to be at.
No, it was so loud. We were right in the middle of it. We were right beside the tar pit, beating on the tar pit and stuff, and it was. I can't say it enough. I mean, it was the loudest I've ever heard it. It was the most full I've ever seen it. It was just awesome all the way around.
Yeah, but let's get into the X's and O's. What did you see on the offensive side of the ball, Zach, that you want to talk about?
Well, last week I said that the thing I was looking for in this game was how Sam kept his composure, and boy did he. Mm-hmm. I mean, he didn't throw a pick, 2 touchdowns, 16-24, really good stat line, and we had every opportunity to lose this game. I know at some point it's probably a good idea to talk about the 4th and 17 conversion in the fourth quarter that he was able to throw a great pass to Rontavious Groves to keep the drive alive.
Well, I mean, we took a timeout before it, and you and I were talking about it in the stands. We're like, okay, we gotta punt it. You can't go for this because if you don't make it, you lose. If you punt it, at least you have a chance. And so when they trotted the offense back out there, I'm like, well, we're screwed. Game over.
I mean, there's not many plays that are designed to pick up 17 yards on 4th down, and really, there's a lot of defensive options you can have there that are kind of not fail-safe, but high likelihood to get you off the field there. And somehow we were able to get a receiver open outside the numbers for a quick strike and picked up, I think, 20 yards on that pass, which is, I mean, Miami's kicking themselves about it, but it really was a great play call, great design, and we couldn't believe it.
Yeah, exactly. Offensive line gave him a great amount of time in the pocket, and he stepped up and delivered that beautiful pass. But let's be honest, can you really have seen this great of a start for Sam Howell? So right now, as of 2 games into the season, he's got almost a 65% completion percentage, 519 yards, over 10 yards per attempt through the air, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. A true freshman coming in and doing that, I don't know if we could have expected or even asked for anything more.
No, we can't, and I would not have expected it, to answer your question. I thought it was going to take him a lot longer to come into this offense and come into playing like this. I didn't think we would see anything like this all year. I thought it was going to be a couple years down the road before we saw this kind of production out of him. But, he shocked the hell out of me. He shocked pretty much all of Tar Heel Nation in a positive way. I just hope we can keep it going now. We've kind of been spoiled these past 2 weeks with these fourth quarter wins.
Yeah.
A lot different from what we saw last year. But that's the biggest difference, I think, between the two teams right now is how they're playing in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, honestly, I thought Miami and North Carolina, like, a very similar talent level. Like, these were very evenly matched teams, and we could have very easily lost this game. So sometimes things just have to go your way a little bit. In the past 2 years, literally nothing has gone our way.
No, and it hasn't.
So things are finally starting to go our way, and I'm just going to, like, knock on wood right now that trend continues. But, yeah, I, for one, am just stoked with how Sam is playing and stoked with what they're doing on the offense. His deep ball has just been flawless.
Yeah.
Like, actually absolutely flawless. There was, like, some Pro Football Focus article that they had where, at least last game, he had a perfect passer rating on passes thrown 20 yards down the field. And I would not be shocked if it was still a perfect passer rating just by account of not throwing any interceptions.
Yeah. And even the times when the opposing team has had great coverage on our receivers, he's still putting it where they can't do anything more than just prevent our guy from catching it. So he's not throwing passes that can get picked. It's either our guy or nobody.
Yeah.
And that's what you want.
Exactly. So while I do want to see this trend continue, I am a little concerned with some of, like, the injuries we had, especially with Nick Bellino, our starting center.
Yeah.
When he went out it was either the end of the first quarter or the beginning of the second.
Yeah.
Our offense was stagnant for like half an hour. Like, we did not do anything for the second and third quarters. And it seems like that started as soon as Polino went out. I know we had some snaps that Sam had to go out and reach for. So that was a little scary. So hopefully he's okay. I haven't seen anything about his injury yet, but it's going to be really important because the offensive line is such a strength of this team.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we got to have him. He's one of our leaders. Nick's a great center. He can also play guard. He's very versatile. So yeah, we were going to need him going further in the season.
Yeah, exactly. And then what about the defensive side of the ball? I personally didn't think it was as confident of an outing for them, but they did just enough, especially in the early stages of the game, holding them to field goals instead of touchdowns. It was that classic bend but don't break defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. This wasn't a great showing for them, but it was good enough to win, right? That's all you have to have. So, I mean, one thing that stood out to me was that we did okay. I'd say good relative to this guy's talent. We talked a lot about Brevin Jordan last week and what he can do for Miami, how they move him all over the place at tight end, to receiver, slot, running back, even when they use Wildcat and stuff like that. But he only had 6 catches for 73 yards, no touchdowns. So, considering, like I said, how good he is and how hard he is to match up with, that's not bad. That's definitely not bad. Our safeties did a good job with him. But I also, think we don't need to get ahead of ourselves here because we did give up 309 yards. Jaron Williams threw for 309 yards and 2 touchdowns. DJ Dallas had 107 yards on the ground before the game was over. So although we did win, there's still a lot of things that Miami did that really hurt us that South Carolina didn't necessarily do. So it's room to grow, but we still got the win. That's what matters.
Yeah.
But the defense definitely has room for improvement. In a lot of different levels.
Yeah, but to go home with these 2 wins, and I felt like Miami's offense was a lot different than NC State's, especially with a lot of the short passes that they had Williams throwing. He was dicing us up on a lot of just simple slant routes. If I remember correctly, he only had one real good deep ball, and that was in like the third or the fourth quarter. But really it was just short balls that was just slicing straight through our defense. So a lot different than what South Carolina was doing, where they were giving us a lot more time to get to the quarterback in that pocket.
Yeah, and you touched on how talented Miami is. I think we were talking before the game yesterday. I think I said to you, I was like, honestly, I think this is probably the second most talented team that we'll face this year, other than Clemson. Just pure talent. Not saying they're the second best team we'll play. I mean, who knows? But second most talented, because like Jeff Thomas, the receiver that was catching a lot of passes, he's really good. KJ Osborne's really good. Brevin Jordan's really good. DJ Dallas is really good. So I mean, they've got a lot of skill guys that are all fast, all experienced. So it just makes this win that much sweeter. And one last thing I wanted to say on the defense that I was really proud of, and I haven't heard a lot of people talking about these 2 guys, but Aaron Crawford and Jason Strobridge have been awesome for us in a lot of ways that aren't even really that visible in the box score. I mean, they've been getting a lot of tackles and stuff, but just their ability to play good technique and keep the opposing team's running backs from finding big holes up the seam and getting to our safeties. Especially this week, we did a lot better of a job in that regard, I felt.
Well, we just tackled so much better. We were missing a ton of tackles. I mean, we missed some tackles and we missed some sacks where the quarterback was able to sneak out and just throw the ball away or go for a short completion. But like Tamon Fox had 3 sacks. And a lot of those were, after there was initial pressure, it flushed the quarterback out, and then we got to him. But to see our defensive line playing together, when they start getting to the quarterback, that's when it feeds into our offense almost. First and fourth quarters were when we were getting a lot of pressure with our defensive line.
Right.
And so second and third quarter, that's kind of what I'm worried about a little bit. And the second and third quarter of this Miami game closely mirrored the first and second quarter of the USC game, where we just were not doing anything. And like we've been really lucky that like this team's been able to turn on the gas right when they need to.
Yeah, it reminds me of a quote I heard. Remember when before the South Carolina game, they showed that clip before the game, and I saw it on Twitter and stuff too. But it was Mac's speech to the team before we went and played South Carolina. He was like, "Let's not lose this game before we have a chance to win it." Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what's been the story these past 2 weeks, right? I mean, we haven't played horrible and like just holding on for dear life to have a slim chance at the end. It hasn't been that dramatic, but we've done enough in the middle to
hold up.
Got some music playing for you guys. We did enough in the middle and early parts of these last 2 games to make it to where it's not insurmountable, where we can make some plays at the end to win the game, and that's exactly what we've done in both scenarios.
Well, exactly. I mean, we managed to hold it when we were trailing Miami just to 1 score, and that's just so important. But overall, I just had such an amazing time. It was that atmosphere was my biggest takeaway. The students, the fans, everyone's so into this team right now. Yep. They love Mac Brown, and you can see when like the entire team just surrounded him at like midfield after the game was over, and he was waving to the crowd on his way into the tunnel. It was. Are we a football school now?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves now. We've had 2 really good games, though, and I am extremely excited about what's to come here. Couldn't have asked for a better start to the season.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And with that, why don't we move into our Week 3 matchup against Wake Forest? So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this was originally a Thursday night game, and it got pushed to Friday.
Yeah, which I'm not complaining about. It means I don't have to get up for class the next day after watch it, so I'm all cool with that. But yeah, it will be Friday nights, and I like that too. Not just because I don't have to wake up the day after I watch it, but also because that gives us one more day to prepare.
Yeah, exactly.
And one more day to rest, because last night was a game that I think all of our players are going to wake up from this morning and feel pretty sore, because it was a very physical football game. A lot of big hits. You mentioned some of the injuries. Both teams had injuries that they cramped a lot. Miami, we saw that. But yeah, so we get one more day. It'll be exciting though. Friday Night Football.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. And this Wake Forest team, honestly, at the beginning of the season, I thought this was going to be one of our easier games, and we talked about that in the season preview. They have shown that they're actually a team to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
I think they're undefeated. I think they're 2-0. Yeah, they're 2-0 right now.
They are 2-0.
And their quarterback Newman, he is playing out of his mind. All things considered, he's 55 for 74, 713 yards and 6 touchdowns. So he's objectively outplaying Sam Howell. Obviously, they haven't been playing the same teams that we have.
No.
But this is a guy who's coming into this game with a lot of confidence.
Absolutely, yeah. They've played Utah State and Rice so far, and neither one of those teams will account for South Carolina or Miami, and even the least bit. But yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, they have played well. We talked in our season preview back in, I think, late July about Cade Carney and what he brings to this Wake Forest team. And I think that's really where we need to start when we talk about Wake Forest, Ben, is what he brings to them in the running game. And in conjunction with the offensive line. They've got 3 seniors, redshirt seniors, so fifth-year guys on the offensive line that he's running behind. So a lot of experience. He's a senior as well. Mm-hmm. He's a very physical runner. He's downhill. He will run you over. He will not, juke and run around you. He'll run you over. So that's really where we have to start with Wake Forest, is how do we find a way to neutralize their run attack, because that's what they're going to hit us with first. That's their bread and butter.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And that running attack, it opens up a passing game, which is likely what they've been feeding off this entire season. I mean, they're averaging nearly 40 points per game.
Right.
Nearly 550 total yards per game. They're a very, very well-balanced team on the offensive side of the ball. But again, I don't think they've seen a defense like ours.
No, I don't think they have. I think we're definitely the most talented team that they will have played. And I don't even think that's really the least bit of a hot take. I don't think it's really close. I think we're definitely the most talented they've played. But you meant, yeah, they're very versatile. It's not just Cade Carney. They also have really big receivers. And that's Scotty Washington. He's 6'5", 225. You got Sage Surratt, who is Chaz Surratt's little brother, is a wide receiver for this Wake Forest team. He's also pretty tall. I think he's either 6'4" or 6'3". So those two guys right there that are outside threats that are really big. So we're going to face a similar matchup issue that we did in Week 1 with Bryson Edwards and stuff like that for South Carolina, where we have to rely on our corners to be able to cover these big guys.
Yeah, do you think we have corners that are capable of that?
Yeah, I mean, we got Patrice back, and Patrice is really, really good. Watching some of his film, he's awesome. But, Trey Morrison's been improving. He's a very physical corner. Glad he's healthy after he got hurt in the first game. But, yeah, I mean, I think that they're doing well. But, I mean, that's one of the things I want to talk about here is because of the threat of the run that Carney and even Christian Beal-Smith, their second string running back, who they've been working in to give Carney some time to relax, are both really good, and we're going to have to account for having to have 7, sometimes 8 guys close to the line of scrimmage to stop that. So that means one-on-ones, and you've got to be able to win some of those battles.
Yeah.
And if we can't do it, then it could be a long night for us, at least on defense.
Yeah. I mean, I've liked what I've seen so far from our secondary in general. With a lot of those one-on-one deep balls, our guys have managed to go and contest those without drawing penalties, which is huge. A lot of times, the defensive back won't be able to turn their head around in time and end up tackling the guy. We had that happen once in the USC game, but overall, Dre Bly has been instilling some pretty good technique in these guys, and it's showing. I think the secondary is one of the more strengths, if you will, of our defense.
Yeah, especially the safeties. I think we can't say enough about both of our miles right now, Wilfork and Dorn. But yeah, they're going to have to be big too. I think we'll have to use them a little bit in run support, so that's another reason why I think the corners are going to have to do a good job on the outside with these really tall guys. Chaz Surratt's brother being one of them. Who knows? Maybe he'll have to hit his brother if he comes across the middle.
Yeah, I don't think he'll have too much of a problem with that.
Tough love, right?
Yeah, exactly. But on the other side of the ball, too, this is a Wake Forest team where their defense is not a strength of the team. It was like an absolute firefight against Utah State in Week 1 where they barely escaped, but they're giving up over 450 yards of opponent offense. So this is a game where Sam Howell could just go and start slinging it, especially if their secondary and their linebackers aren't as athletic as our receivers.
Right.
This could just be a huge game, and we could end up dropping just a ton of points on them. Too much for even their prolific offense to catch up, and that might be the game plan.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. But, yeah, you're right about the defense. And I think the biggest reason why they've struggled this year is because they just don't have a lot going for them up front. 2 of their 4 defensive linemen, defensive ends are freshmen. And, that means that they're a little bit inexperienced. They're young. They're still learning a lot. But, yeah, they're really not a great unit, Ben. I don't think that our problem in this game, as you mentioned, is going to be to score on Wake Forest. I think it's going to be able to stop Wake Forest. I think both teams are looking at it thinking, all right, we got to stop the other, not necessarily score on the other, because I think they will score on us. I think it'll be a little bit harder for them to score on us than it will be for us to score on them based off what I've seen so far this season. But, yeah, I mean, that's going to be it. It's going to be a higher scoring game for sure.
Yeah, but that's the thing with those games where it's 2 prolific offensives playing each other. Just 1 or 2 turnovers here or there can be the difference in that game. If they still have it close in the 4th, anything can happen.
Right.
And, I mean, you see that just with unranked teams almost upsetting ranked teams like Army and Michigan this week. Stuff like that.
That was close.
Any team can keep up with any team, especially if they can keep it close on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
But let's talk about where this game is being played. So this is being played in Winston-Salem.
Right.
You think that that's going to give the Demon Deacons any kind of home field advantage, or is that just negligible because it's, an hour away from us?
I mean, I think it will a little bit. I mean, they are 2-0, and they've won a bowl game, I think, each of the last 3 seasons. So, I mean, this is not a team that is fighting for respect in their local community. I mean, they have it. I mean, people are going to show up for their games, especially when they've got some offensive weapons that are so exciting like they do. It's fun to watch, right?
Yeah.
But I think they will a little bit. I mean, I don't think it's going to be anything like when we go to places that are a lot bigger. Like if we go to state at the end of the year, that's going to be a lot more of a home. Just an example. But yes, they will have some sort of a home field advantage. Do I think it'll really help them to the point where we can't get anything going offensively or no,
can't get the plays called because of the crowd noise?
I don't think that's going to be what we're dealing with.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely leaning towards that too. I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue, but regardless of that, we're the better team on paper on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, I believe.
Oh yeah.
But ESPN's just their football power index just giving UNC a 53% chance of winning. So that's basically a toss-up in that regard. So I'm a little surprised about that, but then again, this is a team that's used to being the underdog these last two games.
Yeah. I don't think there's any debate that we're the better defense. I think you can make an argument for either side which has the better offense. I think that's kind of just perspective there.
Well, for me, it's just like who has everyone played, I think Miami has a really talented defense.
Oh, yeah. We've definitely beaten tougher teams. I'm not, disputing with you there. I'm just saying that, they also have a lot of weapons, and maybe they feel like they haven't fully come into their own yet. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, I think we're overall the better team here. And this is the first time this season I think we can say that, because I thought we were outmatched against South Carolina. I thought we were outmatched against Miami.
Yeah, man, you're 0 for 2 on your predictions. Maybe you ought to say Wake Forest is going to win this game too.
Let me just keep picking against us so that we keep winning. That'd be awesome, right? But yeah, so Wake Forest, I don't think they're nearly as good as us in some areas. I think in other areas they are as good as us. So we're going to have to try to exploit their weaknesses and hide ours the best we can, and hope we can get out of there with a win on Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to see. Like I said just a minute ago, we've been the undisputed underdogs in the last 2 games. I want to see how this team responds to being the better team on paper, or being the favorite in this game. Is that going to, do we play better with that chip on our shoulder? Can we keep that chip on our shoulder? Those are all questions that we're just going to have to see when they play.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't think at this point in the season they've lost that chip yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this team still feels that no one really expects anything from them. I mean, yeah, we're starting to get a couple votes in the top 25. I think we were either 4 or 5 teams away from making the top 25.
Yeah, well, I think we are, based on the votes, we're 30th.
30th? Okay.
30th in the country, so, man, is
fifth
pretty
away
shabby
from getting a number beside us, right? So, but besides that, I don't think this team is I'm just going to flat out say I don't think this team is stupid enough to buy into that yet.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think they ever will this year. I think they understand that people still don't expect a whole lot from us despite these first 2 games, so they've got to keep proving themselves each and every week.
Yeah, exactly. Prove yourself. And what our slogan for this year is "Be the one."
Yeah, be the one.
As long as they still, it looks like the coaching staff has instilled that in them.
Yeah, I agree.
The coaching staff loves these players, and the players loves them. Just the amount of resonance between them and Mac Brown is really awesome to see, and I don't think it could have happened maybe if we didn't win in week 1.
Yeah. I mean, if we had not gotten out of South Carolina with a win, it would have been a little bit harder to see this one through.
I actually venture to say if we hadn't won week 1, we probably wouldn't have won week 2.
I think it's fair to say that when you're talking about morality and stuff like that, and what it does to the players and their psyche. I think that's very fair to say, but. Thankfully, we've fought in the fourth quarter, man, and we've won the fourth quarter in both of these games. We've dominated the fourth quarter. We've gotten it done when we had to have it. Made plays when we had to. Some that are just unconceivable. 4th and 17. I mean, God help us. The likelihood of converting
my blood pressure during that play. Oh my goodness.
It makes sense in a way though. Just one last thought on that. I mean, if we punt it and even if we get a quick 3 and out, which is not guaranteed.
We had one timeout left.
Yeah, we had one timeout. We had not been stopping them great on the ground in the second half. DJ Dallas had a couple good runs, so it still leaves us with less than a minute to put together a touchdown drive. I mean, it's not likely either way. I think it's risk-reward there. It may have been a smarter decision to just go for it on 4th and 17.
Well, hindsight's 20/20, man. I'm glad it worked out that way.
We did it.
But why don't we wrap up this episode? As always, we're going to do UNC will win if, and then give our score prediction. So let me know, Zach, what's the one thing that the Tar Heels have to do in order to go 3-0 on the season and walk out of Winston-Salem with a win?
Well, I think a big thing I want to talk about is defense. I think to win this game, our linebackers need to play a little bit better. I want to see a little bit more discipline, not overrunning plays and stuff at the linebacker position. Jeremiah Gemmel, Alan Cater, Chaz Surratt, guys like that, Dominic Ross. I think they need to settle down a little bit, stop trying to make such huge highlight hits on running backs. Stay with your gap, stay with your alignment, and stay disciplined, because this is going to be a tough team to stop running. Okay, Cade Carney is no joke, so we have to stay disciplined. We've got to know our run gaps, and we can't overrun things and make the safeties have to make tackles all night. I think that's the biggest key.
Exactly. Yeah, and in my opinion, I think one of the big things, especially in light of Nick Polino's injury, is going to be the play of our offensive line. If there's any miscommunications or they let Sam get pressured a bunch, that'll kill a drive instantly.
Right.
And we don't want to be punting this ball back to Wake Forest and giving their offense, an unlimited number of attempts to try and get the better of us. I think we need some long drives that wear down their defense and over the course of the game make it easier for us to run up that score. So we're going to see, especially, I don't even really know who's filling in at center if Nick can't play, but hopefully there's still good communication. We got veteran leaders on the line, so hopefully they can fill in the void that Nick might leave.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but let me know, what is your score prediction? Are we going to walk out of Winston-Salem with a win?
Well, it would, I guess, be smart for me to pick against this, because maybe that's what's keeping us winning partly. But this week I'm going to change. I'm going to finally pick us, I think for good reason. I mean, for all the stuff we've talked about, I think it's obvious to see that we have every reason to win this game. I think Heels win 41-30. I think 30 is the magic number. If we score more than 30 points, they won't break 30 points. I think our defense is better than theirs. Our offenses may be about evenly matched, depending on what week and what you look at. So I think we get out of there 41-30. I think Sam has another good game, but the biggest thing I think we see is the running backs have a great night. I think we run downhill on these young defensive linemen and stuff all night long. I think Javante is going to have a great game. Michael will have a great game. Antonio will probably even have a great game. I think we dominate these guys up front.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm going to go with 38-20, Tar Heels winning. I honestly think that Wake Forest, as good as their offense has been, hasn't seen a defense like us, especially with our secondary playing as well as it is. So I think we're going to go out and kill them in the first half, give up a touchdown or two in the second half once we slow down. But yeah, I think it's going to be 38-20. And I think we're gonna start the Mac Brown era 2.0 with 3 straight wins.
Man, that'd be great. I think it's going to happen, though, man. It's going to be exciting.
Oh, any last thoughts before we get going, Zach?
No, that's good. It's been a great start of the season, guys. Hope you guys are enjoying the podcast. Always hit us up on Twitter if you want to. We'll be willing to talk to you about anything.
Yeah, any kind of tips you want us to mention, anything during one of the episodes, don't hesitate to let us know. We're very flexible. But Zach, it's been good talking to you.
Yeah,
Tar Heels are 2-0. Life is good.
That's right.
We'll see if we can continue this streak.
Yep.
But thank you guys again for listening. This has been Ben and Zach at the Heel Deal.
Yep, and always, guys, go to Hell Duke.
Go to Hell Duke.